All right, so all board members are present. I am just going to go ahead and take a moment just to kind of acknowledge right off the bat that there's a lot of angst surrounding this meeting. So I want to remind the board, the public, and the candidates that the board's priority here is to conduct school board business. We want to address issues that are going to impact our families and children in our district. There's an agenda and a structure in place that's going to provide a way and means for effective business to be conducted and decorum will be maintained. So with that, we're going to move into our itinerary. So looking for an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So the agenda stands as ordered. All right, administrative actions. So we have 2 sets of minutes that we're going to look through, or if you've already done it. Do you have a motion to accept
So moved.
Second.
for one or both?
Both.
So that was you, Scott?
Yep.
Okay. So all in favor of approving the minutes from April 17th and April 21st?
Aye.
Opposed? Both sets of minutes. Accepted. All right, so now we're going to come to our first public comment. There's a sign-up sheet if people want to speak. To talk this time. Any hands up on mine? Nope. Right through that one?
We'll wait and see if anybody else is going to talk.
Do I need to go over there and
Yeah,
sign in?
please sign in and then state your name for the meeting minutes.
I need it.
All right, so since there is going to be public comment, just going to make sure that the speakers are limiting their comments to the issues, not individuals. There'll be no back and forth with the board. All comments will be made to the board and all speakers will voice their comments with respect.
So good evening, I'm Marilyn Mahesky. Many of you know me. I'm a former member of the school board. I don't know that I think there's a lot of angst here. I think that it's unfortunate that the Chester Select Board chose to sort of defer and toss the ball over to you all, but I have confidence that you all will make a decision that's in the best interest of the children and the members of our community. I think, when we vote, we don't sort of have an opportunity to pre-select people because people choose and the voters then decide whether someone is going to be elected or not. Here, the circumstances are a little bit different, but I would encourage you to look at the different candidates' characteristics, which include integrity or lack thereof. And I think it's important that if we're going to teach our children how to treat each other with dignity and respect, and that all people are deserving, whether it's a woman or a child or a transgender person, that we all have the right to be treated with dignity and respect and without violence, then I think that should be what drives your decision here today as to which of the 2 candidates you ultimately choose. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? All right, so that is going to bring us to the open Chester seat. So how we have structured this is each candidate is going to have 5 minutes to speak to us about your desire to be on the board. And then the board is then going to enter into executive session. We will interview in executive session. We will deliberate in executive session, and then we will come out with a decision. Okay, and each of you will be interviewed separately. Who would like to go first?
Can I just ask a question? Is that the way we did it with the cabinet?
It is not. It is not. And we don't have to, but we have the authority to. And based on what's been happening in the public, I am trying to insulate the board members and the candidates from further.
I just will say that in the last meeting, there was a lot of emphasis on consistency and doing it the same way and making sure we do it
I fully
in
agree.
accordance with policy and the way. And so it's sitting pretty heavy with me that we're going to
Understood.
do it in a different way, especially considering how important that was to everybody the last time we met.
And it's not, again, it's not that we're deferring from policy. We can do this in public. I'll still have us enter into executive session to discuss some ground rules, and some concerns prior to the interviews. If the board would like to do this in public, it is the board's will, it is not my decision.
I don't particularly have a care one way or another. I just don't want to be hypocritical. We were very, very, very adamant about doing it in a way that is consistent. And then the very next time to do it completely differently.
I think it was
feels-
the interview process. The concern is the dynamic is very different.
Sure.
There has been tremendous, and, you know, I'm not saying something that people don't know. There's been a tremendous amount of negativity and online banter and just stuff that I don't feel this board needs to engage in whatsoever.
I do not want to engage in any of that.
So-
I want to be consistent in our
And I-
application of process.
Yeah.
So that's.
I'm happy to have a discussion about how we go
I
about it.
have one comment about a problem that I had with the way the last ones went down, was that when we interviewed, the same person got to answer the questions first.
Right.
And the second person had to
Yeah.
answer after, and I felt that wasn't fair, the person who was second. So.
Or the person who.
Or
went
the
first.
person who-
Yeah, but I felt that I felt that the person who went second was at a disadvantage because they couldn't ever get their own ideas out first without sounding like they were repeating what the other person said, because some of the answers are pretty consistent.
Great.
So that was something that I was unhappy with the last interviews. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way.
I agree. I felt the same way about that. I guess I think that having a discussion then about the process, the way that we all want to do this, and then making a decision as one voice collective would be my preference. I
That's fine.
don't
If we'd
know
like to
what-
enter into discussion about how we're going to conduct the interviews, I still am going to have us go into executive session prior to the interviews.
I just,
So what is there more discussion regarding this?
I think it would be at Lois's point. Having
Alternative?
done lots of interviews, never interviewed multiple candidates at once.
Yeah. Oh, this would be definitely separate, one at a time individually in the executive session.
Yeah, I
That's
support
the way
that
we go.
100%.
You support the doing it in the executive session, different from the last way that we did it last time.
Interviewing them separately.
In executive
In
session.
executive session, and right now, yeah. Yeah, me too.
Can you remind me what statute we would go into executive session for?
Yeah. So it'd be 313, and it would be under section 3, the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public officer or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reason for its final decision during the open meeting. So the transparency is still there. The decision was based on some of what happened at the select board meeting that was a little
Intense.
intense, and, you know, I want the board to be able to speak freely. I want us to be able to ask questions. I want us to not feel the intense scrutiny that is on this situation right now. And I want each of the candidates to be able to speak freely and without feeling like they're being scrutinized at the level that is happening. This is not to be not transparent. When we would come out, everything would be explained, our reasoning for our decisions.
And we're.
I'm just trying to insulate the board from what has been happening the past few weeks.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm just still struggling with the fact that the board hasn't decided on what the procedure is.
Well,
And
the-
so, you know, when I was brought onto the board in the process that happened recently, and in this one, we've had different procedures, and the board has never said, this is what our procedure would be. And I think that that in and of itself is not particularly fair to the candidates or the towns or the board.
And, sorry, we're confident that directors qualify under that statute, given that typically directors
They would be
are
a public
publicly voted
officer.
on. They're considered a public officer.
again, this is not trying to sidestep policy. This is not trying to be untransparent to anybody. This board has gone through lengthy periods of discord, and I am trying to very much protect this board, prevent more dynamic that is unnecessary. This is not in any way trying to be sneaky, anything like that. But if it is the board's will that we do this all in the public eye, then we will do that. Is there more discussion? Would you like to make a motion or take a vote on it? I don't want it to appear that I am dictating this in any way.
So I'm just feeling uncomfortable with going into executive session or not is about an uncomfortable dynamic and wanting to prevent public conflict. When my understanding of why we would go into executive session has big restrictions on it. So I both really am wanting to be collaborative and supportive of keeping things calm and as friendly as possible, but I'm concerned about having the decision to go into executive session be about something other than does the actual action and discussion meet the definition of what we go into executive session about?
I spent a lot of time thinking about it. I do think it meets it, basically because of, again, unless people have been living under a rock, we all know what's going on online. And
I kind of have been living under a rock. I'm not on social media, and so it's a nice rock.
Yeah, we all know when I go under.
Same rock.
With that being said, the potential for questions, the potential for, publics, speaking out during this process. I also am trying to protect both of the candidates because both of them have been under attack online. I'm not comfortable having a conversation that could be misconstrued, misinterpreted, having dynamic where we're all feeling, again, like we're under a microscope and we're just trying to make the best decision. Like, I want people to be able to ask questions without having to be like, is that the right word? Is this the right thought? Like, am I getting, I just don't want that. This is an important position. But again, that is my opinion. If the board wants to do this in the public, we'll set the ground rules and we'll do it.
You want to do a show of hands or a straw poll?
That sounds fine.
All right, so who would like to do the interviews and deliberation in executive session?
Both.
What?
Both in executive.
Both in executive. We will deliberate in executive session either way, but the interviews as well. Okay, who would like to do this outside of executive session? So we will do this in executive session. Okay. All right, so with that being said, I think we'll probably just go in the order of who.
Make one more.
Yes, absolutely.
So because the last time we did this, we did it publicly, I wonder if we can give one more opportunity for public comment. Just wondering if people were thinking they were going to see and hear everything and then comment at the next one. I have no idea if anybody wants to do public comment, but it feels like we've just shifted and done something completely different. I would love.
Well, I mean, yes and no. We did try to put it on the agenda so that it was there, but I'm happy to.
I missed.
Well, does the board want another public comment prior to us doing interviews and
You
deliberation?
don't make a motion if you're going.
The public comment was warned. I missed if it was that we were doing both of those in executive session.
Sorry.
I totally appreciate your concern for consistency because I was one of the people that banged.
You
the drum
were.
first about, Let's establish a policy and be consistent with it. The process as it's gone so far with application, select board review, nomination, all that is consistent. Entering executive session is an option. So I don't see this as straying outside of consistency. if the board feels the need or discretion to do so.
Yeah, and I'm
So-
fine with the straw poll we just took, and that's what we're gonna do. I'm worried that the public who are all here right now, prior to this decision, perhaps didn't know that we were gonna be doing that in executive session, because the very last time we did it, a few short weeks ago, we did it in the public. So I just wanted to give them another opportunity to speak in the event that they withheld their speaking in the last one. I don't need to. It just feels like pulling the rug out from underneath the public.
What is the will of the board?
I will make a motion that we open the floor back up to the public to reopen the public comment we just had, just in case folks wanted to say something and didn't have the chance or didn't think they needed to do it so early. That's a wordy motion.
Okay, so the motion on the floor by Kate is to reopen public comment,
I second.
seconded by Lisa. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you can reopen public comment.
Anyway,
All right, so, okay, again, with public comment, just gonna remind people, this is not a back and forth with the board. It will be respectful. It will also, it's a 10-minute public comment with 10 minutes, so you have 10 minutes. So I want to know how many people want to speak? And then it will be divided between them.
There's one hand on online.
Okay, so we have 3, 4. Is that it? 5? Okay, so if that is it, each of you will have 2 minutes. Okay. Please just step up, sign in, state your name for the meeting minutes, please.
Heather Chase, and I'll be really brief. I've known Penny Vanilli for, I'd like to say 100 years, but it's been a long time. And I've known her in a capacity of all sorts of ways, in Rotary, as an attorney, as a member of our community, having served on the select board for 9 years. And she has a degree in law, which is really helpful, but she's also has a degree in education. She's raised 2 children in Chester. I think you've been here like a lengthy time. And she's really been a part of the community, and I can't advocate for her more strongly. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to make one correction. I'm not in Rotary.
Oh,
Rotary functions.
Rotary
That one's
functions.
fixed.
Who's next?
Okay,
Wendy.
Wendy, okay, Wendy.
Rotary functions.
All right, so Wendy, you have 2 minutes.
Thanks. Sorry. I just wanted to highly recommend that the board keeps the interviews public. I know there are lots of people in the public right now who would like to hear about these 2 candidates.
Oh, thank you. Your hand is still up.
My name is Ann Henshaw, and I just wanted to make the comment that regarding the issues that may or may not be discussed, I would like to ask that as much as possible be done in the public, because some of these issues are so often described and discussed behind closed doors, and I believe that transparency is the way forward in these kinds of issues within the community, accountability to one another. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Marilyn Mahesky again. I just want to speak to the issue of the open meeting law. And while technically, I believe you do have the right to go into executive session for the appointment of a public officer, I think that going into public executive session for the reasons that you specifically cited, Adrian, are really problematic. That the purpose of the public meeting is for the public body of the community to hear what is being decided, discussed. Obviously, you have the right to go into deliberation in executive session, and you should, but you are essentially insulating the board is not a proper reason for going to executive session. Basically, what you're saying is that you may technically have the right to do that, but you're certainly violating, in my view, the purpose and the spirit of the open meeting law. So I just would like to encourage you to reconsider your decision, because I find it highly problematic.
Thank you. Zachary?
Yeah, am I good?
Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to speak up and just say and agree with what was just said, that I think it is highly problematic to conduct this interview during executive session. I think the board set precedents during the appointing of the Cavendish representative by interviewing in public meeting. And I think that we all have a right to have that precedent be carried forward into what is going to happen tonight with these two candidates. And so I just encourage them to not, you all to not kind of cherry pick how you operate every time this comes up. I think we need consistency, and if you're going to do it one way once, you need to do it the same way for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's no other public comment?
Randy, I will-
I'm sorry, Randy. 2 minutes, Randy.
Yep, point take that one. Randy Miles Trusser. I just want to say that I agree with your position of taking this into executive session. This is a hot topic. The board knows where we've been for the last few years. You're very cautious about where we would go. I think you're all going to ask the right questions and come up with the right decision. I just want to say, I think you've come to the right choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other public comment, we'll move into the next section of asking the candidates to make a statement. Again, 5 minutes each. I think we'll start with you, Mr. Keller, because you put in first.
My name is John Keller. I'm pretty sure that most people here are aware of my presence here. Most people here are aware of my presence here in town. I believe they think they know a lot about me, but I don't think they really do. I'm, I guess, an entrepreneur. I built a business from the ground up, doing telecommunications work. I work for numerous companies throughout New England and New York. I have quite a bit of experience with project management and team building. My interest in applying for this position was really purely to be a contributing member of the community. And as it turned out, I was the only applicant until the actual time limit was ended, and then it wasn't. I'm sure everyone's well aware of my recent issue that I had. So I'm sure everybody wants to question me on that. What I can say is that it was a domestic issue, private domestic issue, and this happened just about a year ago. And so I can tell you that I have been with the same domestic partner for over 4 years, and I'm still with the same domestic partner. And I don't think that it's anybody's business outside of that, as far as any other details or anything else whatsoever. But I would be happy to serve in any capacity that I can, manage to do so. Otherwise, appreciate your time, consideration.
Thank you. Sonali?
I'm Patricia Benelli, and I think a lot of you know me as Penny. Please feel free, I've been called Penny all my life. Patricia's the formal part. I am applying to be on the board of directors for this school board. And I think that I have the qualifications needed to do that. I have actually handed out to each of you today a copy of the letter that I sent to the superintendent on application, and then a CV, which brings in other details about my professional experience in education and in the practice of law, the two areas that I think are most relevant to my application here. I've lived here in Chester since May 5th, 1972, so we're looking at 53 years and 13 days and counting, and we have no intention of going anywhere. We have lived in the same place out at the dead end of Nudist Camp Road for all that time. We moved here in 1972, and my husband, he was my boyfriend when we moved here. His family owned the property. And we got married later the same year. We have two kids, both adults. My daughter Sarah lives in Virginia now, and my son just moved back to Chester from Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Both of them went to schools here, to Chester Andover Elementary School. My son graduated from this high school, which has changed quite a bit since then, so I wasn't sure how to get to the library. My daughter went to high school at Kimball Union Academy in New Hampshire instead. Both of them are Vermonters. They were raised here. They love it, and they can come back regularly. I, until very recently, actually, technically, June 30th of last year, was an attorney with Dakin and Benelli here in Chester. I started with them with that law firm, which had a different name then, in 1986, after I got out of law school. With the firm in 1986, it was Dakin and Home then. And it became Dakin and Benelli when John Home left the firm in 1990. It was Dakin and Benelli ever since, until actually right now. It is today. I was down at the office, still helping clean things out. The office, both Bill Dakin and I have retired. The office is closed, but I can tell you, retiring from a law firm it's a two-person law firm, is not an event, it is a process, and it is still going on. And I'm still spending a lot of time down there, but it's well on its way and it's almost done. Because the practice of law, especially family law, as I practice, is very demanding, very stressful. I was not able to get involved in much, but in the way of community activities while I was involved in that. But with retirement, I have the time, I have the effort, I have the ability to put the time and the effort in to what I consider to be a very important job, which is the school board. I used to be a teacher. I got my college degree in elementary education with a minor in earth science, and I taught junior high, general science and high school earth science. But that was back, as a matter of fact, I was teaching earth science for the very first Earth Day, April 1970. But what I wanted to do back then was the science. I liked teaching, but I wanted to be out doing the science, and it wasn't available to women back then. It is now, thankfully it is now, but it didn't used to be. So I ended up not going back to teaching. I did other things. We moved to Vermont. I won't go into the details of the other jobs, but I did do other things before I got into law. And I just loved it, I have to say. I really love practicing law. And I think it's a really important thing. Lawyers are the profession that uphold the rule of law. We help settle disputes one way or another within that rule. And I think that is really important. I think especially today, that's a really important thing to uphold. And I think it's important for the school board to operate in that way as well. I have handed out to each of you a CV, which has more information about it that I won't repeat now. And I've included a copy of my letter to the superintendent to apply for this position because they both say different things. And I thought it would be helpful if you have all of the information in the same place at the same time. And I'm assuming that you'll be able to refer to that during the interview.
Yes.
And I am looking forward to that. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Can I say something real quick? You guys moved on before I got my hand raised.
This is.
No, we're not in public comment. We had 2 public comments. There'll be another one at the end.
Are you saying no, the public can't?
We had 2 public comments. There'll be another one at the end. All right, so with the public or the statements by the candidates being complete, we will enter into executive session. So just I'll tell you how this is going to go, and then I'll need a motion. So we'll have everybody leave. The board is going to talk about the ground rules for the interview, and then we will bring in 1 candidate at a time. They'll have their opportunity individually. Then they will leave, we'll deliberate, and then we will come out of executive session. Start decision. Is there any questions on that?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Just a point of clarity. Interviewing the candidates in executive session allows us to separate them, so we can alleviate that issue of interviewing candidates at the same time. And I guess that's where I'm stuck. Is there a mechanism to interview them publicly with them not in the room together? I understand the contentious nature of this. I also appreciate the public interest and transparency and being able to see the interviews. But I guess that's where I was with doing interviews private or in executive session. To me, I guess was the only real mechanism to do that.
I'm not sure. Do you mean having them individually or? I guess I'm not following. Hold on a second. I just want to clarify what he's asking. So you're confused about why we're doing an executive session or the interviews?
No, I guess I'm just trying to clarify. The only way we can actually split up the interviews is by doing it in executive session, correct?
No, I mean, they could both be in the room at the same time and just one would be interviewed, the same question.
But that's what
Yeah.
I'm for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we could ask them if they wouldn't mind being stepping out while the other one is interviewing. I think they've got to agree to that because I don't think it's something out of public.
I can volunteer that they would agree.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is there more discussion on this in regards to whether we're doing this in executive session or to move on? I don't want to force anything. I'm not trying to force that. I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page and we're doing this as a board, not individuals. Still on the same page or are we? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that is the process. So if I can have a motion to enter into executive session. It's written on your paper if you want to read it. Under 5. 5, the executive board will enter into executive session on VSA.
Make a motion to go into the board executive session 313-3 with a public officer. What's the disadvantage?
It's for the purpose of evaluating a potential public officer, and we'll be inviting John Keller and Patricia Benelli.
No.
No. Be a conflict. If you have if there's a process question, you can just grab me. Yeah.
So, all in favor?
I'm sorry, who was
the
second on that? I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Chuck. Sorry, I thought someone had. So that was Rick and then Chuck. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
How many was that? 3? Okay. So we'll do a roll.
Actually, I'll do
4? Okay. All right. So Rick,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Casey Lake,
No.
Kate Lamfair.
No.
Katie Murphy,
Kill me.
Yes.
Lois Perla. No. Lisa Sanders,
No.
Tuck,
No.
and Donovan.
No.
Okay, so we 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 yes, and 2, 3, 4, 5. So the motion does not pass, so we will not do this in executive session. All right, so we are going to go into executive session for a moment, so the ground rules are laid out there. And then we will come out and we will do this. So I would like the candidates to not be in the room at the same time during the process. And I will ask the public to not speak out during the interviews at all. All right, so let's go into executive session just momentarily.
I move that we go into executive session under one VSA section 13-3 for the purpose of evaluating potential public officer. For setting the ground rules of such.
It's the same statute.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Sorry.
So Tuck and Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I know, I don't really know the statute. I'm fine. It's fine.
So, well, no, it's roll call again. All right, Rick Alexander.
Yes.
Jeff Hans.
Yes.
Scott Kendall.
Yes.
Dixie Leahy.
Yes.
Kay Lampier.
Yes.
Katie Murphy. Louis Pearl. Sorry, speak up. Mr. Sanders. Chuck.
Yes.
Who knows? None of us. We're in executive session.
Give me a moment.
And I'd like both of you to step up for a moment.
And then all of that I can do.
Yeah. Good. All right, so officially come out of executive session at 6:46, so now we will begin the interview process. We're gonna start with Mr. Keller. With Ms. Benelli, you can step out. Don't mind. Okay, so we're just gonna go around the room, so Scott will start.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Are you ready? Okay. What does being a school board member mean to you? And what is the most important part of it?
To me, it means having an input in kind of the guidelines of the school system, the budgetary portion of it, as well as the operations of it. And for me, I believe my input would be as a fiscal conservative to try to assist that way as you know, mainly budgetary wise and policy wise.
What long-term outcomes do you believe should be prioritized in schools?
Mainly to improve the education of the children, of the students. Basically, that's the main long-term outcome, is to get better students, better grades.
Okay. School safety and well-being. What are your priorities regarding school safety, physical security, mental health resources? How do you plan to support teachers and staff in creating a positive school climate?
I believe that there should be a safe environment for students, that they should be able to have a safe place to go in the school, be able to confide in their teachers and guidance counselors as it may be, that they can get help as needed, but also be able to have a place to have friends and basically have an enjoyable experience.
Is there a particular reason you want to serve in this board?
Mainly just to, like I said, be a contributing member of the community, and I felt like this was an opportunity in which to get started with that, try to, you know, put a foot forward. And as far as an agenda goes, I mean, no, other than just trying to bring some, maybe, you know, conservative mindset to the whole process.
How would you handle disagreements or controversies within the school community?
situation, I would say privacy would be most important. Bringing, bringing professionals in may be necessary to try to mediate whatever the circumstances might be, but otherwise, communication.
What is your approach to balancing fiscal responsibility and academic excellence?
I personally believe that there is a lot of waste. I believe that students should have more of a relationship with their teacher rather than with technology. I think that I personally feel like technology is a bit overbearing, and I believe it actually takes away from the education system. But fiscally, I don't think that necessarily throwing money at education creates a better education system.
Lisa?
What is your view on the role of the school director in representing Chester specifically and all of the towns and schools in the Green Mountain Unified School District?
So as a director, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. So we decide how many members on the board will be from each town. And so there's some role of representing Chester, since that's where you live, but also of representing all of the towns and schools in the Green Mountain District. So how do you balance those two?
Well, there would be policies that would, I'm sure would affect school systems in general. Certain issues that would come up that would be, they would have to incorporate among all of the school systems, but there's going to be ones that are going to be specific to a certain area. So I feel like you should be able to address the specific issues and take care of the local, anything, local that needs to be taken care of first. And then as far as the greater area, that I feel like should be secondary.
What is your motivation to join the school board, and why have you chosen to seek this vacancy?
Well, so, my motivation is basically just to have some input in the community, have establish a foothold and have some input in the community, how it runs. And I felt like the school board was a pretty nominal place to begin. And what was your second question?
I'll read the full question back. What is your motivation to join the school board, and why have you chosen to seek this vacancy?
Well, I sought this vacancy basically because it came open. A few years ago, I sought a position with the select board as well, for basically the same reasons. And I just feel like I have some, I have something to bring to the table as far as, like I said, my experience in project management and building business and teams as well, and trying to, I feel like I can help to form a kind of a good plan to try to help with the general education and the general, you know, generally the policies of education system.
Yeah, in addition to our general meetings, the board has a number of subcommittees. They include the legislative committee, the outreach committee, the transportation committee, the bargaining committee, works with contracts, and facilities. Which of these would you be interested in joining and why? I can read you the list again.
Yeah.
It's legislative, outreach, transportation, bargaining, and facilities.
I would say probably legislative. Just because, again, I feel like I'm more geared towards project management type of thing where, you know, decision making.
So we all represent small towns and we come together to be one board. And my question is two parts. One, I want to know what you see your role is as a board member. And also, how will you balance the pressures that come from your community and ensure that you are representing the best interest of the district as opposed to your own, caving to the pressures of the community?
Well, I think it's plainly obvious I haven't caved the pressures of the community, but I would just bring basically, again, just my experience. I've raised two daughters, so I have a good deal of experience with what goes on educationally and what, you know, issues that children have, that, you know, as they grow up. They went to private and public school, and so I saw a difference, firsthand saw a strong difference between the two, and saw the positives and the negatives of both. So I feel like I could bring something of that with me. Well,
Everybody ask the questions they want to ask. Thank you, Mr. Keller.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm actually gonna have you step out and then we'll bring this in that way.
I want to be the one to make that.
More snacks. Make a run.
But it's for later.
You weren't kidding. You weren't kidding.
I told you.
I knew we were kidding. Where you getting it?
It didn't translate about
Thank you. Good luck.
So we're just gonna ask questions. We're gonna go around the table, starting with Scott.
Sure,
Ready?
absolutely.
What does being a school board member mean to you? And what is the most important part of it?
The school board membership to me means being part of the process of deciding what kind of education our kids are going to get and helping the process along. The school board sets school policies. It governs school property and it sets the budget, and priorities are really important. And I really think that that's something that means a lot. That's an important job. It's not, and it's something that's time consuming. Boy, do I know that you've spent a lot of time on this. And this year's going to be a bear. with the legislature out there too. It's not going to be easy. And I'm actually really pleased that I finally have the time to be able to do something like this. Did that answer your question? I think it was a two-part, and I may miss
The
the
second part is what's the most important to you? What do you think is the most important part of being a school board?
I think our kids' education, making sure that they have access to a really good education is absolutely critical for all of our kids.
Thank you.
Welcome.
What long-term outcomes do you believe should be prioritized?
Well, I think the curriculum is one of them. And school policies, how there's a big controversy in that right now. And Vermont has taken the position that we should not abandon the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we have been practicing for a long time. And I absolutely believe that. I think that's really important. I think it's important to support that and keep it going. But the long-term thing is having a stable, workable educational environment for all of our kids. You're welcome.
Okay. School safety and well-being. What are your priorities regarding school safety, physical security, mental health resources? How do you plan to support teachers and staff in creating a positive school climate?
Oh, wow, that's a lot of work. I think school security, I find it frightening now. When my kids went to school here, I could come and go. Now, all the school doors are locked. I went to Chester Andover to deliver something to a client a couple of years ago. I had to knock on the door. They wouldn't even let me in. Came out, got it, took it back in. I get it. We have to have lockdown. Now, we've been lucky so far in Chester. We have not had any shooting incidents, but we can't guarantee that we won't. We have to take security measures against that. I'm not a security expert, but I know that we have to keep the doors locked. We have to have police presence at least part of the time, or availability, immediate availability. And I would support having somebody, I don't even know, because my kids, it's a long time now since they were in the schools here. And we didn't have security officers. I don't know if there are security officers in the schools now, but if there aren't, I would support something like that. Mental health is critical. I'm not a therapist. I think that I can tell you, I can relate it to what it is in the law practice. Lawyers have the highest rate of alcoholism and suicide of all professions. And the legal profession has started a program for wellness. And I mentioned in my CV that all lawyers are required to take 20 credits of CLE, continuing legal education, every 2 years to be able to renew their license. Every 2 years, we have to renew our licenses. Now, the bar requires courses in attorney wellness. I assume that there are also teacher education courses, and I don't see why teacher wellness couldn't also be included. If it isn't already, it should be. There are lots of resources out there for it, as we found out when we started doing it for the legal profession, and it's made a difference. It really has. We have, and again, if we don't have it in the educational system, we could get it. There's a reporting system where you can report anonymously that you know that a teacher, or in my case, a lawyer or teacher, is having a problem, substance abuse problem, something that is interfering with his or her well-being and ability to function without it being public, and it's very carefully dealt with, and people get help. And it has helped. It has definitely helped attorneys in Vermont. I don't see why that wouldn't work in the educational profession as well. Did I answer all of yours? Thank you.
Is there a particular reason you're wanting to serve on this board?
I've always been interested in education. I just never had the time to do it. I raised two little kids while I was going to law school, commuted 135 miles a day to go to South Royalton. And I didn't have time to do it then. I didn't have time to do it in law school, and I haven't had time now. My kids were in school. I would love to have been part of the school board then, but I was full-time lawyering then, and that is very demanding, especially as I focused on gradually. I didn't start out as only family law, but I can tell you family law is consuming. It is really, it's people's lives. It's not how much money they're going to get from a neighbor because of a violation. It's not property. It's their kids, it's their marriage, it's their futures, it's their property. And I try not to take personally all my clients' problems on, but I can tell you night after night, 2 a.m, what am I going to do? What motion do I have to file? What witnesses do we have to get? I don't have to do that anymore. So now I have the time to spend on something like this. I've always valued education. And it's an opportunity. People keep asking me, what are you going to do now that you've retired? Well, this opportunity came up and I went, bingo, that fits, that really fits. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
How would you handle disagreements or controversies within the school community?
Well, it depends on what they are. I mean, there are disagreements and there are disagreements. And if it's something legal, I assume that, I mean, I would not be a lawyer for the board. I understand that. I could bring my legal expertise, but I would not give legal advice to the board. But if I thought there was a legal issue, because that, I know, I haven't done school law, but some of the children of my clients were involved in what do we do with disabled kids? We've got 504s and we've got, what is the other kind that you get for?
IEPs.
IEPs and 504s, and I have some experience with that. Sometimes it can be just sit down and talk it out. Sometimes you might want to mediate something or have a committee meet. Sometimes it's literally a legal issue and it goes to the court. And it depends on what you want. I would hope also that the schools have policies about bullying. I haven't been, as I say, my kids haven't been in these schools for a long time now. And I don't think there were any policies then. I don't think the bullying was even mentioned. My daughter graduated from high school in 1996. And my son graduated from here, Green Mountain Union High School in 1999. We didn't have those policies then. It had to be a problem, but nobody was paying attention. Now people are. So I hope that there are systems in place for dealing with that. If not, then I think you should get those systems.
What is your approach to balancing fiscal responsibility and academic excellence?
There's the $1,000, $1 million question. I honestly don't know where the balance is. I would love to give everybody, every academic, a benefit that they can get. I also know we can't afford it. I know this school was built for some 650 students, and we don't even have half that now. And I don't know how that can continue. I don't know what that balance is, but I'm a quick study, and I will read up on it. I will learn what I need to know about it so that I could make an informed decision, especially now. I mean, it isn't just here. It's all over the state. We're losing kids. We have an aging population and not so many kids. And we just can't keep all of the little schools going everywhere the same way they have been. I don't know what the answer is yet, but I think there's a process that's getting started. And I'd like to be part of that process. And I'd like to be part of the decision for us here in Chester. It matters to me.
What is your view on the role of a school board member in representing Chester specifically and all of the towns and schools in the Green Mountain Unified Schools?
Well, it's one board, and there are representatives from each town, and we have 6 here, I think, in Chester. That's the largest percentage of any of them. I think it's important for representatives from Chester to represent Chester. But I also think it's important to take into account that this is one school board, a unified school board for 3 different schools in 4 different towns. And it's important. You can't just focus everything on one. If I'm representing Chester, if I get selected, and I'm all for Chester, but I'm not going to put Cavendish at risk and say, well, you have to give up this so we can have that. It has to be fair. It has to be a way that works for everybody. And I don't know yet where that balance will be because I have a lot to learn about it. But it's like all for one and one for all. It's not just a one item thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What is your motivation to join the school board and why have you chosen to seek this vacancy?
Well, I think I've also asked, I've answered about the motivation. And I chose to seek, to fill the vacancy when I learned about it. I only learned about it on the Sunday, a week ago Sunday. And then I didn't even know it was available. So, as I said, it's an opportunity for me. I'm now retired. I was making a list of places I could volunteer. I was thinking, well, I could go to the nursing home, I could visit people, I can work at the family center, which I probably will do anyway, and that type of thing. And this came open and I said, well, that really fits the bill. And I think I could be a valuable addition. I think I would have something to add to this. I can tell you that I am a collaborative person. I am one of the people who, as part of my membership in the Vermont Bar Association, I think I mentioned in the CV that I was chair of the family law section for 15 years. And what that did was also give me a seat on the Family Rules Committee, which is a Supreme Court committee of judges, justices, there's a Supreme Court justice at least one on the committee, and attorneys who practice in all parts of family law. There's family law that I never touched, juvenile criminal laws in the family court. I didn't do that. Children in need of care and supervision is in the family court. I didn't do that either, hardly ever. Once in a while, it came in with a parentage case, a divorce or something else, but I didn't do those. But people from all over family law came in. And another attorney and I were the ones who really stressed that we need to make mediation available in the family court. And we got it put into the rules that the family court judge could order parties to mediate. The one exception to that was domestic abuse. They were not allowed to order mediation in domestic abuse unless the parties agreed. But they could order mediation. And I supported mediation. I told clients over and over and over that you, your spouse, your children are better off if you can work this out together among yourselves, because you're not going to get everything you want, but you get something you can live with. The stress goes away, the dispute goes away, your children can relax, and you can move on. And I would support the same kind of thing here. I would not push for, I want this at all costs and it just has to be my way. I never did that in my practice and I wouldn't do that here.
In addition to our normal board meetings, the board also has a series of subcommittees, in case you're looking for anything else to do. They include the Legislative Committee, the Outreach Committee, Transportation, Bargaining, and Facilities. Out of those 5, which would you be interested in joining and why?
Well, 2 stand out immediately, legislative and bargaining. Legislative because as the chair of the Family Law Committee, I may frequently testify for committees, especially the Judiciary Committee, the Senate Judiciary and the House Judiciary, many, many times on bills that were before the House that were related to family law. And sometimes there were other committees, but mostly it was the Judiciary Committees. And I wrote legislation. I worked with an attorney, another attorney, family law attorney, and with a JAG officer in 2010. And the 3 of us got together because that's when Vermont National Guard was being deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq, and they were getting killed. And it was men and women. And what happened if a parent who was a military parent was deployed and had custody, very often they'd lose custody because now you're gone for 6 months, you don't see your kid. And when you come back, they'd say, well, now there's a big change, you're not going to have custody. We put in effect a statute that said that the absence alone due to the military deployment would not allow would not change the original custody arrangement. Now, there are other reasons, because if there's a real substantial and unanticipated change of circumstances, that comes up, you can always modify. You can seek to modify parental rights and parent-child contact, but that absence because of deployment alone was not one of those factors. And it protected families and the family relationships during deployment. And that was fun. We had a ball doing that. We got an award from the VBA for doing that. So I know how to work with the legislature. I like working with the legislature, and I know a lot of legislators. So that would be very interesting. And then when you say bargaining, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not into collective bargaining I'm not sure what kind of bargaining it is. If it's mediating and trying to come up with agreements, yes, that's kind of bargaining.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we all come from small towns and have, we live in these communities. We have friends and family in these communities. We also have our own personal beliefs and ideas. And I want to hear from you what you believe is your role as a board member is and how you will balance the pressures that you might experience from your neighbors and community members who might say, hey, you did that wrong.
I'm really good at that last part. Because whenever you're trying to settle things in a divorce, somebody always thinks you're doing it wrong. And you just stick to your guns and you stick to what you believe in. And I'm not two different people. I was never one person in person and another person in court. You got what you got, and that was it. And I do know attorneys who did that. They had a court personality and a personal personality, and they were nothing alike. I never did that. I never will. So I would deal with it. That the first part of your question has.
What do you believe your role as a board member is?
Well, I think my role as a board member would be to stand up for the kids, that their education is why we're here. The school board, the boards of the districts are there to set policies for and to fund, to aid the education of the kids that they're serving. And I think that's a really important purpose. I think that's there's very little more important these days than educating our kids. There really isn't. And I have to say, there are times when I'm aghast when I see people on TV, a teacher who said she didn't know why we celebrated July 4th. And I go, wait a minute, somebody's missing out on education here. We need to fix this. So I don't think there's much more important things we can do than to assure that our kids get the best education they can, the best we can afford to give them. I do understand there's a balance. I don't know exactly where that balance is going to be, but we can't do everything we want to do. We are not millionaires. We can't just fork out the money and just keep doing everything. We have to set priorities. We have to say we can do this, but we can't do that. We'll do this now and we'll try to do that later. I know that that's going to come up, and I will deal with it as best I can when it does. And I will do it in a collaborative way. I don't see myself as a maverick, just going out on my own and saying this is the way it ought to be. There's a whole group of people here, and we would be acting as a group, cooperative. That would be my goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So now we will go into executive session to deliberate. We'll go into executive.
Want me to read again? Due to the politicized nature of the proceedings leading up to this meeting, and due to the nature of this board as an apolitical entity, the board will invite the Chester Select Board to a meeting to ask them to conduct a duly warned public election. We thank both of the candidates for their time and interest in serving on the board.
And then your
Yeah.
reminder.
Oh, yeah, sorry. And the reminder is that all of this was discussed in executive session, so our members will not be making comment about this. Okay, so in light of how long that took for everybody, we have another executive session that was requested to be moved up in the agenda.
Move executive session, item number 12, deliberation to executive session, agenda.
Okay, so, okay. So Casey has made the motion to move item 12 to before item 6.
Are we inviting?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm inviting Lane.
Myself, the Searles, John, and
So inviting
The Searles.
online, okay, the Searles, John Broadley, Kate Lee. So, may I have a motion to enter into executive session, please, and then when you do, please read.
The board will enter executive session under 1 VSA section 313 for the purpose of discussing confidential student information.
I'll second.
Okay, so Lois, motion. Chuck, seconded, all in favor of entering executive session?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are back in executive session at 20:37.
Gotcha.
8:37, sorry. Okay, so we are back, are we out of executive session now? Okay, so we're out of executive session at 22:46. I need a motion to re-enter executive session.
What floor?
Well,
Yeah, so if somebody could make a motion to
The board will
re-enter
enter
executive session.
executive session
We're coming out.
under 1 VSA section 313 for the purpose of discussing confidential student information.
seconded.
So Lois has made the motion, Scott seconded, are
you inviting anybody in?
inviting Katie. And Lane and
John.
John and Kate.
And Amber?
No. Wait, do you want to?
Oh.
What?
We're back, we're back. We're back in
What'd you do? Going back into another executive session. That's why he was on the chair.
I'm sorry.
I didn't hear who made the motion. It will be fast.
I make a
Lois did.
motion
I
and.
seconded.
Scott second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? We're back in session at 22:47.
You're up.
Executive session at 22:57.
Everybody, right?
Yeah,
Everybody.
we're not going back into executive.
Everybody comes back?
We're not going back. into
Everybody, yeah.
executive session. This is it.
I am confident in this. I will.
Katie, you gotta sit over
I
here.
don't have to sit over here, so.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, well,
Oh, right.
Who else is coming in? It's-
Amber.
Amber, I think.
You are such a trooper, Amber.
You are.
Listen, I had to have my kid bring me dinner.
Dude, that's my girlfriend.
You're gonna do a good drive at home.
Oh, I'll be fine. My wife.
There's only one more executive session.
I just wish it's still outside.
I know, I know that. I hope
All right, let's do
it's.
this.
Okay, all right, everybody in? Do you want me to give you a minute?
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right, so, coming out of executive session, I'm looking for a motion, for a one-time increase in the sending seat for requested, I'm sorry, I told you I was gonna do this. One-time increase of sending seats for requested students, increasing the total number to 12.
Second. Third. Me first.
Scott,
Me first.
me, and then who seconded?
Phil. Rick. Phil.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
I can
Phil.
sit.
You can say no.
Okay, so now we need a motion to
I
table.
move to table everything except for public comment.
Okay, so Lisa,
Until
Scott,
next meeting.
until the next meeting.
Until the next meeting.
So all in favor?
Lisa and Casey, I didn't say no.
Lisa and Casey.
Oh, good. Huh. All right, so Lisa made the motion to table all remaining,
Agenda items.
until the next meeting, except for public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that moves us into our last public comment.
Is there anybody on? Listen, meeting adjourned.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Second.
22:59, we made it before 11.